All right, hi, welcome back. I'm doing another book video today. I'm so excited. I'm doing my October reading wrap up. So all the books I read in October, I read in total 9 books. I have a few physical books, and then I read, I think, 2 on my Kindle, and then there's another physical book that I read that I'm also letting a friend borrow, so I don't have it with me, but I'm gonna go through all the books I read. I'm gonna tell you what I rated them. I have my Goodreads on my phone, so I can tell you exactly what I rated them in the moment and kind of tell you what I rate them now that I had a little bit of time to sit with them and think about them. So let's go through all of our October reads. The first book I read it on my Kindle. It was Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. So this book is about a couple, and they're kind of going through like a rough patch in their marriage. So they decide to go on a getaway. And so they're on this getaway. Some things have happened in their marriage, and they're kind of trying to fix it with this getaway. The husband actually has face blindness, so he can't see anyone's like features on their face, so he doesn't really know what anyone looks like. So that's kind of interesting, and it kind of keeps you enthralled. The wife actually writes a journal, and in the book you are reading her journal and things that happened, like, you know, 10 years ago in their marriage and 5 years ago and stuff like that. And each journal entry kind of makes you question the husband, and then it also makes you question the wife. It did not live up to the hype for me personally. I enjoyed my time reading it, but it felt like a lot of other thriller books that I read. Like, I just felt like I could see the twist coming. Thriller is not my favorite genre, so it takes like something crazy to really impress me when it comes to thrillers, and this just didn't have it. I rated it 3 stars on my Goodreads, and I'm gonna stick with that, 3 stars. I thought it was a good read. I enjoyed it, but it just felt too similar to other thriller books that I had read to really give it anything other than 3 stars. And I know a lot of people really love this book. It has really good reviews on Goodreads. Just because I didn't like it as much doesn't mean you won't love it. So I'll give it a try if you're looking for a thriller to read. The second book that I read in October, I also read on my Kindle, and that was If We Were Villains. This book is like a Shakespearean kind of book. It has a lot of like Shakespeare lingo. This book is compared to The Secret History a lot, so I wanted to read this one and then see if I enjoyed it, and then if I did like it, I would then read the Secret History eventually. So in this book, it starts out with one of the characters. He's getting out of jail. He's been in jail for like 10 years. And he's kind of starting to tell his story about what happened and why he's in jail. And it keeps flashing backwards to the past. A part of a group of friends, they go to this like theater college. And while they're in this theater college, a murder happens. It is, like I said, it's very heavy in like Shakespearean language. They do a lot of plays in the book. And I won't lie, I am not smart enough for that at all. So if you're scared of reading this book because you're like, I'm not gonna understand it, I didn't understand it either. But when I read those like Shakespearean quotes and play script and stuff like that, I just kind of read it and I didn't dive too much into it. Like, I wasn't trying to think so much, oh my god, what does that mean? Like, what's the meaning of it? And even though I didn't really understand that lingo, I still was able to like keep up with the book and knew what was going on. I did rate this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I just thought this book was different than like any other book I've really read. The way that it was written and the story of it and the way it's told, I thought it was really cool, and I definitely would recommend it, especially for fall, because it does give a little bit like of an eerie vibe. Next book I read was Heartless Hunter by Kristen Siciliari. Oh gosh, I don't know how to say her name. Siciliari. This book is about a girl, and she is a witch. What she does is she pretends she's not a witch. She pretends that she's just this young, dumb, very rich socialite, but secretly she is helping witches escape, and she is a witch herself. She meets a witch hunter. Witch hunter is hunting this person who is very well known for saving all the witches. So I gave this book 4.5 stars. I really loved this book. Like, I loved it. I was also listening to the audiobook on Spotify, and I really enjoyed the audiobook a lot. The narrator had a British accent, and I just felt like it was so good for the stories. Would definitely recommend this book. I think it was a very easy to understand fantasy. So maybe if you're someone who kind of wants to dip your toes into fantasy, I think this would be a really good way to start. The next book I read was Immortal Dark, and this is by Tigis Gurma. I hope I'm saying her name right. I just think like it's so beautiful with the sprayed edges, and inside of it, it's so pretty. That cover off, it's so pretty. So this is about a girl who is looking for her sister. She believes that a vampire has kidnapped her sister. So in order to try to get her sister back, she needs to move to this vampire academy. So she has to attend this college that brings mortals and vampires together, and it teaches them how to coexist, all while she hates vampires. I just absolutely ate this book up. I thought that the tension between the female main character and the male main character, it was a slow burn like no other. It was so slow. We only got the tiniest crumbs and bits and pieces of them kind of even like interacting in a normal way that isn't like, oh my god, I hate you, get away from me. I loved it. I loved our male main character. I don't know what it was about him, but I just loved him. I did like a hybrid read on this too, where I read some of the physical book and then I listened to the audiobook on Spotify as well. I thought the narrator was so good. I really liked her voice. I thought her voice was perfect for this book. This book was pretty dark. So after I read this, I kind of felt I felt kind of dark for a little bit, not in a bad way, but just some of the things that the main characters go through and some of their like internal struggles that they go through, and their mindset is a little dark. When I first finished this, I gave it like a 4.5. After I sat with it for like 2 days, I realized I could not stop thinking about this book, and I gave it a 5-star. The next book I read was Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. This book is about a professor, Emily Wilde, and she is writing a book, an encyclopedia about fairies. So she goes to this area that has a lot of fairies, like these rare fairies that she wants to study and put in her book. So she goes there, she's living in this like little shack, and then her annoying co-worker professor comes and barges in, and he's very lazy. He can't keep up with her. So they kind of like battle in the beginning. They definitely go through some issues with these fairies. I heard that this was described as a cozy fantasy read. So I was like, okay, cozy fantasy, let's do it. I want to feel a little bit more light than I did reading my last book. This just was not what I thought. Like, I just think cozy fantasy, I was thinking, ooh, pretty fairies and pretty mystical creatures. That's not what this was. That's not what this was. The way that the fairies were described was a little creepy. The things that the fairies could do to the humans was a little creepy and eerie. I didn't think this was cozy. It did not make me feel cozy. I really enjoyed the first like 100 pages of the book. I was reading it and I was like, wow, I'm gonna probably give this like a 4-star. After the first 100 pages, I feel like we lost the plot. I feel like the plot went in a complete different direction of where I thought it was gonna go. And I didn't like that. I don't know why. I didn't like the way the plot went after the first like 100 pages. The fairies in this book creeped me out. I'm just gonna say that. The fairies in this book creeped me out. I ended up giving this book 2 stars. Like I said, loved the first 100 pages. It kept me hooked. After that, I did not like it. And there was a ton of very big words, very scientific. I had no idea what any of those words meant. So it got pretty confusing on top of not really enjoying it. So yeah, 2 stars. I know a lot of people really like this, so you could give it a try, but personally I would not recommend. I think you can skip this one. The next book I read was Just Last Night by Hari McFarlane. This book is about a friend group. A tragedy happens in the beginning of the story, and you do find out what the tragedy is like right off the bat. Pretty much the first like 50 pages, you figure out, they tell you straight up what happened, what the tragedy is within the friend group. Then from there, you follow the friends kind of grieving through this tragedy, and they find out a lot of things about each other. This isn't like light, fluffy romance. This was definitely like deeper, emotional, kind of talking about the inside of people's brains when it comes to love and grief and friendship and relationships and all of that. I absolutely loved this book. I loved it. I love this book so much. I loved the writing. She had so many, she wrote so many beautiful words and beautiful phrases, and I felt like she did a really good job of like capturing what people in these situations would be thinking and feeling in the moment, and putting it in really good words and like quotes that kind of have stuck with me. I rated this overall 4.5 stars. Like I said, I loved it. I ate it up. I immediately went and bought another book from her because I just feel like I need to read all her books now. And I definitely recommend. Next book I read, I don't have with me physically, but I did read the physical book. I actually gave it to a coworker and she's reading it right now. So that book is The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. This book gives very much Gilmore Girl vibes. Like, you've got the small town girl and all the townspeople are very tight knit. There's a little bit of mystery in it, but that's not really the main point of the book. Is running her aunt's pumpkin spice cafe. She's trying to decide if she wants to stay in this small town. I rated this book 3.75 stars. This book was definitely not anything that is like monumental or like gonna change your life, or you're gonna like think about it forever and it's gonna be your new favorite book, but it was definitely a really good palate cleanser. I thought it was a really fun read. It was a quick read. It was short. You didn't have to use brain power to read it. It was like very good fall vibes. Like, you just, I was there for the vibes, okay? I wasn't there for the plot. I was there for the vibes, and that's what it gave me. So 3.75, I would recommend. The last two books I read were One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillick. And these books were highly recommended for spooky season. Definitely agree with that. I felt like October, right around Halloween, was a great time to read them because they definitely gave like the eerie, gothic romance vibe. And I think that if you want to read these, you should go in pretty much blind. I think it's more fun. I went in pretty much blind and I think it's more fun that way. It's so interesting. I don't even want to like tell you what it's about. I think just go into it blind. These books were so good. I mean, I think I actually end up liking the second one better than the first one, but they're so good. So I highly recommend. Like I said, go in blind. Don't even read the back. Just go in blind. If you read the first, like, honestly, the first like 2 pages in this book will get you hooked. I promise you. I gave the first one a 4.5 and I gave this one a 4.75. I honestly feel like I want to rate them higher. I feel like I want to give them both 5 stars now because they have stuck with me and I haven't been able to stop thinking about them. And I really loved them. They were so cool and different. Definitely recommend. Okay, so those are all the books that I read in October. I hope that this little wrap up kind of gave you some books that maybe you want to add to your TBR. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed and I can't wait to do this next month. And